neurodegenerative disorder focused in spinal cerebellar ataxia. What are the main reasons for develop this initiative for Latin America in the brain research? First of all, the neurological disease in the Latin America area are very increasing during the last time. For example, the dementia, Parkinson's disease, and other disorders. And when we analyze the prevalence rate, it is very high in comparison with other world different countries. One example about it is the increase, for example, in the dementia. You can see, you can know that there is an increase of dementia throughout the time and other neurodegenerative disorders. And it's very important to advance more into develop early intervention before start the neurodegeneration. Psychiatric disorder is another very important health problem that is affecting our area, Latin America and the Caribbean. And for that reason, it's very important to know more about this disorder. I would like to emphasize that in Latin America, we have a very interesting situation in relation that we have different countries with founded effects for different neurodegenerative disorders. For example, we have a highest concentration of patients with spinal cerebellar ataxia type 7 in Mexico. This ataxia is characterized by alteration in cerebellar manifestation, and the patient cannot see. It is very interesting, and the age onset is very early. On the other hand, in the south of Brazil, we have a high concentration of the spinal cerebellar ataxia type 3 or Machado-Joseph disease. And in Cuba, we have the highest concentration for a particular or molecular subtype of the spinal cerebellar ataxia, called the spinal cerebellar ataxia type 2. And on the other hand, we have the highest concentration not only of the safety patients, but also the preclinical subject. There are about or more than 10,000 individuals at least, and about 800 patients with this neurodegenerative disorder. On the other hand, we have a higher concentration in different regions of Latin America of other neurodegenerative disorders, such as Huntington's disease in Venezuela and other neurodegenerative disorders. Other important reason that I think to create this initiative is that the different mechanism that in this moment involved in the neurodegeneration is in relation to the different factors related to the environment. This factor influence to the functioning of the central nervous system. Other very interesting situation is the pleiotropism of different genes. For example, in the particular case of the ataxin gene or the SAP gene is related with the spinal cerebellar ataxia. But in some cases, when occur, for example, polymorphisms, the SAP mutation develop amyotrophic sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and dementia. And there are the physicopathological there are different aspects in relation to the neurodegenerative mechanism, and they are very important when we can develop any treatment, and maybe this treatment will be you can use for a different neurodegenerative disorder. And for that reason, there is an overlap of different neurodegenerative conditions in these cases. When we analyze in these neurodegenerative or other neurological conditions, you can identify different alteration in the symptomatic state, suggesting a severe neurodegeneration, a severe neurodegeneration. Also, the brain imaging can detect different alterations very early of the disease. And when we evaluate the morphological finding in the postmortem analysis, you can get a severe degeneration of the brain cortex, cerebellum, and brain stem in the particular case of spinal cerebellar ataxia. And for that reason, in this moment, we need to advance more into develop the identification the new biomarkers and to characterize the preclinical state. And at the moment, the most important clinical trial of being or have carried out in the patient during symptomatic state, when the neurodegeneration starts. And in this case, it is very difficult to improve the different clinical manifestations of this patient. For that reason, I think we need to start in clinical stage. In this moment, there are many neurodegenerative disorders in which the clinical state is described, for example, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, and the spinal cerebellar ataxia. It is very interesting. On the other hand, there are many molecular mechanisms underlying the neurodegeneration, and in all these neurodegenerative disorders, they share some molecular mechanisms. And it is very important because when you can detect or when you can develop any treatment for one of these neurodegenerative disorders, maybe they can be used for all or for different of these neurodegenerative disorders. In relation to the biomarkers and the clinical stage, I would like to say that in the particular case of our experience, we identify different biomarkers in both preclinical and pre-symptomatic state. For example, in pre-symptomatic state, we identify different genetic damage biomarkers related to saccade slowing, rented libido autonomia, and other. And also, we identify all the clinical biomarkers related to the cognitive functioning, related to the oxidative stress, etc. And in the symptomatic state, we describe different progression biomarkers. When we integrate these parameters, clinical, physiological, and imaging, we describe a presymptomatic or prodromal state. The prodromal state is characterized by physiological, quantitative, and imaging alteration. The first alteration appears 15 years before the ataxia onset. It is very important because in this state you can start with the early intervention when the neurodegeneration is still incident, and it is very important to start with the treatment during this phase. The early intervention is very important, and I think one of the objectives with this Latin American initiative is to advance in the study of the preclinical state, identify new biomarkers. What is the main reason to start with the early intervention? There are several clinical manifestations can be improved by treating them. For example, in the particular case for the SCA2, the mind tablet play abnormality, the painful muscle cramp, etc. On the other hand, there are different sensitive biomarkers can be used as outcome measure during the clinical trial. It is really important because to start with the treatment in preclinical stage, you need to identify a new outcome or endpoint to evaluate the efficacy of the different medications. The neurodegeneration is mild and some neuroplasticity mechanisms are preserved. For example, visual and motor learning function. And finally, it is providing preventive treatment alongside with symptomatic diagnosis in order to reduce the ethical dilemma concerning early diagnosis. In Cuba, we have a very good experience during the last 30 years in relation to the neurorehabilitation treatment. First of all, in incubation, and finally, we start with the clinical subjects. And this result were to be presented in movement disorder journal, and we identified how it was possible to improve difference related to the coordination, gait, posture, balance, etc. And finally, I would like to say that the comprehensive experience acquired by the Cuban researchers in Northeast and advantage for the development of international collaborative project and scientific network. On the other hand, the Cuban Ataxia Group offers a unique opportunity for the development of the Latin American initiative for brain research in neurodegenerative disorders, because in Cuba we have the largest population with spinal cerebellar ataxia type 2, and we have a national center devoted to the study of the patient with different molecular type of ataxia. And findings are important for developing preclinical trial and for the identification of sensible endpoint to develop different clinical trials. And in this moment, we have a national network of ataxia in Cuba, and recently we created the Pan-American Network of Hereditary Ataxia with scientific from the United States, Brazil, Mexico, and other countries from the Latin America, with the objective to create an standardization of the clinical characterization, identification of new biomarkers, and to start with the early intervention for improve the clinical manifestation. In this case, because I think the best time to start with the intervention with patient with different neurodegenerative disorder and other neurological conditions is in preclinical. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Luis. Do you have any questions? ¿No nos escucha? ¿Siguen sin escucharnos? Ok. Entonces voy para el otro lado y escribo. Just a minute. Just a minute. Hello.
¿Cuál es la relación con
Preguntas. ¿Cómo? Any questions? Francisco?
what is the relation with the Cuban brain project
Mm-hmm.
of that we saw before.
What is the relation? What is relation with the Cuban brain? Stop.
Yeah, question.
Ya le escribí, pero no lo vio. Ok.
No. No, right.
No sé qué pasó, estaría apurado. Para buscar ayuda. Ok. No.
Todo es parte
No te vayas. Stop.
Córtalo porque puede decir algo que... Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Stop it. Stop it.
Pero está ahí.
Si aplaudimos, nos importará una pregunta.
Here we say.
Bueno, lo corto. So.
Le podés mandar un mail para que lo conteste cuando pueda.
Sí. Qué cómico que estuvo eso, ¿no? Qué gracioso. Bueno, ok. No lo destruya. Yeah.
Catherine first.
Catherine and but I need your
I have it.
I need your okay. You need to be closer. Okay. So
Catherine, you ready?
okay. So now it's a great pleasure to introduce those that you already know, because many of the people here already know Catherine. Yeah. And it's a great pleasure to introduce those that don't still know Catherine. Is a good friend and kind of a scientific mother. And but now in this case is speaking in the position of president of the Grass Foundation.
Yeah. In English, we would say I put on a different hat, because yesterday I talked about evolution, and today I would just very briefly at the end of the day like to talk about the Grass Foundation. And I would just tell you just a small amount of history so you understand why the foundation likes to support neuroscience training for young people. And it's specifically, I know this will work. That's right. It's specifically because of these two young people in this picture from the 1930s. They invented the EEG machine, the two of them together. Ellen was a graduate student in physiology at Harvard, and Albert Ross was an electronics technician. And they were employed by this guy, Alexander Forbes, who was a physiology professor at Harvard Medical School, who wanted to develop new ways of recording evoked potentials from brain. He started out with a medical degree, and he went to work with the famous English physiologists, Sherrington and Adrian. I think this man was really driven to try and find reasonable ways of recording EEGs. Oh, thank you. And he really did the right thing by by hiring these two people because they were very talented. I mean, and very determined. You had to be very determined to be a woman graduate student in the 20s. And in fact, I think she quit halfway through. She got a master's degree and then quit to form the company with Albert. And not only were they very determined and very clever, but they were also very thrifty. I'm not sure if can someone come up with the right Spanish term? There's a term for people who are careful with money but wise. In English, you say thrifty. So although they made quite a lot of money with the EEG machine, they did not spend it on themselves. They put it, most of it, in a foundation for supporting training for graduate students and postdocs. Yeah. Okay, so this is, and so we try and be wise and thrifty with this money, and we mostly, the rest is about what the foundation does. I got a GRAS fellowship when I was a graduate student to go to Cold Spring Harbor. Marita got GRAS support to be a GRAS fellow. There are probably other GRAS funded people in this room. And principally what we do is support this postdoc program in Woods Hole. It is for senior graduate students, postdocs, and young faculty. And there's all the information is on the website. I'm here all week. I have some cards. I will talk about this program at length because we really try and recruit people who we think will benefit a lot. So I won't pretend that it's not competitive. These things are always hard, but we have a very strong intention to support the people who can benefit the most. This program is like an independent research for a few months. Marita and I can talk about it. We also support these two courses in Woods Hole and also sometimes courses in Cold Spring Harbor because some of the American students can be supported on American government money, but the students coming from abroad who are not Americans get mostly supported by the GRAS Foundation. And it means for the admission for these courses that people are just admitted on talent and recommendations. It doesn't matter where you come from, they find the money. And that's, I think, an important thing to convey. The other couple, and then just a few more things about Woods Hole. This is this year's GRAS Fellows. We don't have anyone from Uruguay or Argentina today, but here we have a postdoc who was originally from Mexico, and here is a Chilean. Here is we have a very strong connection with Ricardo Milady here, Albert Grass and Ricardo. I think Ricardo Milady was one of our trustees. And then one other thing, it's a specific message for people from Chile. Werner Lorenstein, who was an American biophysicist, is now dead, but his family has given a little money to support Chilean fellows in the GRAS program. And for those of you who do not know his history, he came as a child, as a refugee from Nazi Germany to Chile, and lived in Santiago with his family. He went to the medical school in Santiago. He was on the faculty there before he moved to the US. And he remembered Chile his whole life. And so if any Chileans here, will you please encourage applicants to apply? Yeah, we had a very good guy last year. And a couple of other things that we do, we support a prize for a best PhD in behavioral neuroscience and a GRAS lecture. And we have also supported up until this year the Latin American training program. And we are further very interested in different ways of teaching neuroscience. I talked to Marita about this. I think everybody, it's my fault for pressing the wrong button. It's very kind of you. And then also we partner with IBRO and the American Epilepsy Society and the occasional conferences. But it's all because of Albert and Ellen, because everybody sees, I'm looking mostly at the students and post, everyone sees the benefit of providing, we're not a very rich foundation. We're actually rather a small foundation, but we like the idea of giving small amounts of money when it matters. And otherwise, please feel free to ask me questions for the next couple of days. Thank you. You can ask me questions now, but maybe you want to, you can catch me later. We finish with Sultan.
Sultan. Okay, so last presentation of today, but not least, last but not least, Sultan Mola. The United Kingdom, how was the name? Sorry. Medical Research Council Neuroscience and Mental Health Board, that you have been director or president.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Marita.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Marita asked me to talk about the Medical Research Council Mental Health Board, where I served for 5 years, but I'm not going to talk about that because it's probably very boring for you. This Medical Research Council has a huge budget, huge. But this is a 9-minute expenditure of the US military. So the 1-year budget we spend on Medical Research Council is the 9 minutes budget of the US military. So this puts things into perspective, how much money we spend on research and how much money on military things. So I'm not going to talk about this in more detail. I just want to give you an example on how you can change with very little resources a research area in a country. And I would like to talk about the development of brain resource funds we have in England, which was just established in 1991, but now it's going quite well. And the message is to think globally but act locally. So I think brain banking is not appealing to anybody. No, would you like to spend your life collecting brains? No, I don't think you. But you would like to use brains, for your research, and you would like to use these resources. So this human developmental biology resource is funded by the Medical Research Council, by NHS, Wellcome Trust, and there are 2 large centers in England. One of them is at Newcastle University, and the other one is at University College London, the Institute of Child Health. And they collect samples, and anybody can apply to use these. So what are the limitations you have when you want to use human tissue? You don't want to deal with ethics all the time, right, long, ethical. They deal with that. So before they collect the tissue, they deal with that, and then you can look at the tissue. So that's one of the biggest. The other problem is sometimes you cannot conclude the study because you don't have enough tissue. They have that. They have a huge collection of tissues, and you can apply for all that. So I'm a developmental neurobiologist, and I get, when I was sitting on the Medical Research Council Neuroscience Mental Health Board, almost all the funding is going to neurodegenerative diseases right now. And I just want to spend a little bit of time to defend developmental neurobiology. We know very little about these early steps of development, especially in human. Most of the knowledge is coming from rodents. We know quite little. And nevertheless, this 9 months has a huge impact on your life, the rest of your life, and not just your life, but also your family and the society. So we take it for granted that we are born healthy, but lots of things can go wrong during that period. And from some of these conditions, you don't recover. You have to manage your life like that. So if you rank the diseases according to the disability-adjusted life year ranks, then a very different picture is emerging. And suddenly, it's not the neurodegenerative diseases which are at the top, but the neurodevelopmental, because they have a huge impact on your life. And if you have a look at these diseases like preterm complications or neonatal encephalopathy. They were very high on the list in 1990, and they are still very high because we didn't resolve these conditions. And they have a huge burden on the families and also on the society. So I don't think that we developmental neurobiologists have shame because of our research. For the contrary, I think there is more need for that. Let me just give you an example on the cost for the society of some of these conditions. I could have picked many things, but I'm picking the fetal alcohol syndrome, which is about 1 to 100 in the Western world. Obviously, it's a spectrum condition, so you can have different severity. And so it's 1 in 100 in the population, and up to 30% of the pregnant women, they still take alcohol during pregnancy. Now, these numbers are quite shocking, that 95% of fetal alcohol syndrome babies will have mental health problems for the rest of their lives. 55% will be confined in prison, drug or alcohol treatment center, or mental institution. And 82% will not be able to live independently for the rest of their life. So this is the cost of this condition. And if you look at the incarceration rate, and you look at some of the occupants of prisons, you actually realize that about 60% of prisoners are likely to be affected by alcohol in utero. And prisons are extremely expensive. We don't like to talk about it, but to keep somebody in prison in the US, it's about 120,000 a year. So, sorry, 120,000 a year. And it can be 82,000 in a proper prison. So for that money, you can send somebody to Harvard to study, and instead of keeping them in prison. So this is the cost of these conditions. They're not going to grow out of it. You just manage the condition. But I could have picked many other things, Zika, microcephaly, or some other conditions. This is the real cost of mental health conditions. And look at the number of incarceration rates from 100,000 adults. You can see that huge numbers. Look at what's going on in Louisiana. It's 1,400 from 100,000. I don't know what's going on there, but it's a very high rate. And also, if you look at Seychelles, this is the highest. From 100,000, you have 799. So Hungary is overtaking the United Kingdom. But can you imagine the money we have to spend on keeping people in prison, whereas some of them, they have a mental health condition, like fetal alcohol syndrome. So I think we developmental neurobiologists, we could argue that our research is just as important or even more important than understanding some of the conditions which will affect all of us, or a large proportion of us, but perhaps in the end of our life, rather than throughout. And also, there is a conception that the developing brain is just a smaller version of the adult brain. That's not the case. It's a completely different structure. The rules are very different. And some of the therapeutic interventions which we use for adults, if we translate it to babies, they are actually causing more harm than benefit. Think about some of the anti-epileptic drugs or treating perinatal hypoxic ischemic brain damage or stroke. It's very different in a baby than in adults. So that's why I would like to argue that this human developmental biology resource was actually really useful. I have nothing to do with it. I was just advising on this. And all credit should go to Newcastle University and the Institute of Child Health. But I'm using this resource, and now I can do work on human using these resources. So it's a tissue bank. You have written permission from all the donors, and they deal with all the ethics. There is now a considerable collection of embryonic and fetal tissues since 1999. And if you have a research project, you can apply to them. And then there is a committee which will decide whether your research project is good enough to allocate tissue for you. And you have a very good website. you have a website for the general public, and you have a website also for the scientists, together with links with all sorts of important information. So this is really well done. Now, the majority of the samples are between 4 to 14th post-conceptual week, and you can apply for these tissues. But you also have some other stages, very early or even later, and also you have normal and abnormal conditions as well. So we know very little about these very early stages of human brain development. A couple of years ago, we discovered a cell population which is migrating into the human brain before any neurogenesis is starting tangentially. So some of these cells were called by Irina Bistron the predecessor cells, and then they migrate in. We still don't know the origin, but we don't see these in rodents. It looks like they are specific for primate or human. Now, there are some collections of chromosomal abnormalities, known abnormalities, and you can apply for tissue from these as well to do your studies. So all the ethics are covered. It's covered the Human Tissue Authority regulations, and also they have a steering committee which will include members of the general public, and they review the activities every second year. And so this was a great success. And if you have money, they even do the in situ hybridization or immuno for you. So you don't have to do it. Perhaps you have a study which was done in rodent, and you want to increase the impact of that paper, and you need maybe just 1 or 2 immunos or in situ. You pay them, and then they do it for you. If you are lucky enough to have money to pay for these. So, and they are very professional. So this is the so-called in-house gene expression service. And they also have these atlas resources and also these gene expression databases. So this really revolutionized the research on the human brains. It's very difficult to get funding unless you have some human relevance of your work now from Medical Research Council. So that's why this resource helped me to do some work. Of course, there was a huge development with the organoids, especially to understand earlier stages of development. But this is not the real brain. There are very serious limitations. So if somebody is emphasizing the uniformity and usefulness without revealing the problems, they probably hide things. So you have to be very careful with the organoids. And some of the single cell expression work is actually revealing quite a lot of variability, ER stress in some of these cells. So you have to do organoid work together with the real tissue. And that's why this resource is happening. So we use this resource for quite a lot of work. And we had a meeting last year in Oxford, where most of these articles are on human brain. And all of these papers are in open access. So if you go to this issue of Journal of Anatomy, you will find some work on human brains. For instance, we looked at serine protease expression neuroserpin, which is upregulated in hypoxic ischemia. And the idea is perhaps we could use these mechanisms to protect against this and increase resilience and increase plasticity in combination with single cell sequencing from human tissues. So you will find these websites quite useful, and I'm very grateful for this human developmental biology resource. So I think some of these resources, they don't require a lot of funding. So in these centers, you have a dedicated manager, and their salary is covered by Wellcome Trust and Medical Research Council, so they provide continuity. But the others, they just really, the director and others, they just help out to provide continuity. Thanks a lot for your attention. Then I just want to, sorry.
Can international people apply
Yes.
for the tissue?
Yeah.
And so what do they send you? They're not going to send you a whole.
They will send you
Right.
sections, and they will also send you a paperwork to do material transfer agreement. So you have to fill those in. And if you have some publishable data, they also would like to publish it on their website, some of them. So, yeah, you have to say that I would like to study and name the genes you would like to study. And it's actually a very small paper, very little administration, but nevertheless it is screened, and you have a material transfer agreement with them.
So they will not judge the project.
No, it's not like a grant application. It's just, yeah. But you still have to explain what you want to do.
How do you have to have human ethics approval from your
You have to have the human tissue authority of your institution, but not yourself as a lab. And they have the ethics covered, so you don't have to apply for that. So that's quite a considerable help.
Yeah.
And most of us are in teaching. For instance, we are covered under we do this secondary teaching, so we have these licenses. If you are in a teaching university, like we have.
Any other comment or questions? No, well, just a minute.
I just wanted to say thanks to Marita for organizing all this session. It was fantastic, and also for your tremendous hospitality, and
You're welcome.
and for the putting in all this energy, effort, and attention. So thank you very much.
So,
We may talk later. Do you know when NRC and Working Trust, what's their participation in the European brain project? Are they, but they're formally part of the, I don't know, I think they're that just some scientists and the heads of.
okay, so now we are finishing. Don't feel you are going to run away. We are finishing the main part of this meeting, but as it is announced, we have a second part that I hope. I mean, all the invited speakers. I mean, I know it is very long and you are tired. You've been traveling long to come here, and of course, stay as long as you can and want. So, but this is the presentation of the meeting that it was for this supposed to be for this morning. But I think it is a good moment in the middle of the program, just to this is. By now is the picture of the LATBrain. That is a picture that was very generously donated by Greg Gang. You know, it's an artist, but he's also working in neuroscience and making wonderful pictures. But this, as you already know, this was organized within the framework of the Uruguayan Society for Neuroscience. And this was possible thanks to a lot of institutions and support from different origin, public and private. And it was interesting, it was declared of ministerial interest of the Ministry of Education and Culture, and also the Ministry of Energy, Industry, and Minery. So the other paperwork is still working, and so I would like to say thank you to all the previous speakers, to all the institutions that support, and to all the people that is here a Saturday after a week of work. And so now I invite you to continue working because we have a plan that is, I mean, I would like to explain a little bit why I insist on that. There are moments that if you do something, I mean, it's like a train. If the train passes, then it's an opportunity, or you jump it, or you don't. And so I think that all this work has sense if we end with a summary of ideas about what we would like to be a Latin American project. And so for the second part of the, or last part, or whatever you can call it, I think we should, and it is proposed, we should work in groups, or first maybe all together and then in groups, and define at least the lines that we continue working. For example, which are the main objectives, or we would like to be the main objectives of the LATBrain project. This is in the first element to define. And then if we have an idea, a consensus of which are the main objectives, then we can work on several kind of pillars that should be the base of this project. And these pillars are brain research, research on brain, formation in human resources, outreach and advocacy, and last but not least, ethics on neuroscience. So I invite you now, even though we are very tired, to make a kind of brainstorming and being so immersed in all these lectures that we have already received with many ideas. I mean, I think we are in the best moment, even though we are tired. So I suggest that we can plan, let's say, for example, this was, we are 1 hour delay, but maybe we can make it shorter. We can think about half an hour thinking about the objectives, and then half more hours in these topics if we divide in groups. And I propose a kind of creative thinking strategy in which maybe we can just now say, well, in the first half an hour, just say a lot of things that we think it could be a good objective for the LATBrain meeting. We just put it in the board, and then we select the main of that, and then we continue until we reach, let's say, 5 or 6, not more than that, of main objectives. So, and then we can divide in another half an hour for working in the other main elements. And if we do that in 1 hour, we're finishing, but we're finishing with a result. And for me, it's great. It would be great. Take it. Ese estaba en YouTube. Yo voy a buscar unos post-its. I'm going to look for a post-its if you want. I mean, you are not, I mean, see?
Why won't we do it in all one group?
Yes, we can do it in one group. But I'm going to bring a post-it, and everyone is writing one objective, and then we organize it, and then we select. We can organize in a.
Okay. We may have more light in the hall. Alguien puede prender más luz acá. So if you, Patricia. Yeah. So I don't know if everybody agree, but okay, we are very tired. We heard a lot of important information today. We are learning a lot, but the point is, as others have shown, that this process of creating a brain initiative is a 5 years at least effort. So we cannot produce a final document today unless we stop the time. So I suppose that we may try to crystallize the idea that our guests have shown us, and use their time here to suggest possible way that we may use here in South America to proceed, kind of roadmap of what they advises us on how to proceed. That's my point. So there are several people here that can contribute. We, as a Uruguayan society, we have been discussing at least 4 or 5 meetings about brain initiative, and we didn't end up with a result, but a lot of thinking, of course. So I think that what we can produce at the end of today is a note, is a summary of what happened today here, okay, that we may use for press note release and publication somewhere and so on. But more importantly, I think that we need to create kind of working group. I mean, specific people that is committed, is compromises with this project, or at least that we can refer to write, to take information, to keep in touch for something else. And Marita, yes.
Two different things. One is, well, how
I
to...
think like 5.
5.
Thank
Okay.
you. Pinky.
How to select people to be committed to do what to say, for instance, I thought it depends on the subjects and on the goals. If I would be more or less committed.
Yes, I will try to be more specific.
This is one of them.
I will try to be more specific. I think that the only people here that knows that what is a brain initiative are seated there. And when we ask, for instance, Linda, what is the definition of a brain initiative to be allowed to participate in the global brain initiative, there is not a definition, right? Correct? A strict definition. So to define this, it takes several meetings. So my objective, my aim is that this day ends with, okay, we have to meet again. Where, eventually, not where, I don't care, but who will be there and who is funding this meeting. That's my main objective. So it's not, I work on neural cortex plasticity, I may be interested, no. Can I contribute to development of neuroscience? I don't understand. In the region and the international level? Yes, okay. I will spend 1 hour per month to dedicating my time to this. That's point. So can I count on you? Not as an Alzheimer's disease expert.
No, I understood, but the thing is that we have been speaking, talking about each other, and with them also, with Linda particularly. And there are some confusion, and I guess it's useful and important to have some discussion now, because some of us, it doesn't matter who, but in general, some of us understood in some way things, as you said, as the global initiative, and how to fit in or try to, and the other thing is just to think, as Linda said in the talks, in the personal talks, to think about particularities and strength in one country or in one region or in some collaborative projects that already are going on, and maybe those projects are interesting for the governments and public, and this could be as they develop in Australia, for instance. Then this is what, there are two different ways of thinking about. One is the global initiative and to be helped within, and the other is the particular initiative, the LATBrain thought from the point of view of each country and region and so on. This is one of my concerns. The other is that, as Marita proposed previously, and some people answer in the mails, we would like to make some proposal to the next meeting.
Alan 2020.
No, sorry. We would like to make, sorry. We thought to make a proposal for the next meeting in Brazil from this meeting, a proposal to make some symposium meeting or something. And this, yeah, and this would be, to make the proposal, this would be me the right simple step to discuss it. Or maybe we can, as Francesco proposed, to get some people committed to do that in some other way. I don't know. This was a question.
I think
Okay?
Daniel.
Yes, what I think we should have in mind is what are we going to do if we do a meeting from here to the meeting.
I think we haven't finished the meeting today. I think we haven't finished the meeting today. Maybe when we finish, we can think about. I think we haven't finished yet.
I think we should leave this meeting with homework.
Yes, of course.
Should create or talk about creating a working group on this topic and start to exchange ideas about what they want, and of course coordinate with us what we want. Brazilian same. Some people from Chile can take this message back. But I think we should live here with some homework. So for the next meeting, be more productive.
Okay, let me ask you, because I think in the program says that tomorrow talks about declaration.
Yeah. We were thinking in the output of the work of today that it hasn't finished yet.
Okay.
Would be shared.
That declaration could be just a description.
Could be just a description of aims.
And then the proposal for getting to reach a final proposal the next meeting in Palani.
Maybe it can be. Yeah, of course.
We are not going to work on a final document.
Of course not. No, of course not.
So,
it's just.
The idea is that tomorrow we should approve the summary of what happened here and the commitment to discuss that further.
And further. Yeah.
And then with that idea in mind, we can also commit ourselves to be part of the organization of the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. I agree with that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone. No sé quién, él pidió la mano, le dio la voz.
Okay, so I remember for the Human Brain Project, when it started, there was a broad definition. They want to rise technology to simulate the brain. Okay, that was the main. Actually, they didn't start with ethic issues, and they were working in artificial intelligence. They were writing modeling in supercomputers and that kind of thing. They didn't have an education involved in the original project and clinical interactions. So they were growing. But I want to say that maybe we have to have a first statement, you say, and then we can start working. But we need something. And we have been covered several things, like maybe LATBrain should be some kind of international Latin American networking effort at the beginning. So we have to create some map of our human resources, scientific human resources, maybe our facilities, maybe how we can add energy and funding from our own countries to be integrated initiative. So maybe we have to generate a map. We have a homework for that. But we have seen that we have regional issues about brain development, for example, of the expose our children to spread nutrition problems, drug consumption. So we have regional issues, and we have to deal with that. So maybe we need to put energy in this highlight as well, because we are not the same that European people or North American people. But what I can see, what I saw these days, that in our countries we have many similarities in the way we are doing the science, the problems, the limitations as well. Okay, so education, we have to start with education as well, and ethics. Right, I already said. There was one of the scientists speaking about preclinical diagnosis. That is another goal that we have to cover. And also artificial intelligence and data analysis and technology interchange is another goal that we have to keep in mind. So I think that we have to try to start to generate a starting point, and we can work on that later. So when we are meeting the next year in the future, we will have something more explicit. Okay?
So you are saying that we should define some subjects to think about.
Exactly. We need to start working right now, because we're not going to be together so frequently. We need maybe to divide the work, but we need to start working. If we don't start today, there's going to be 1 year, and our starting is going to be 5 years, then 6 years, 7,
Yeah,
10.
so we have a chance now.
Okay.
So may I? Okay, sorry, Anna. See?
No, I was wondering at least. I asked you, Marita, a while ago, we were going to be discussing academic aims or operational aims. And I think that operational aims are really very important at this point. It is very difficult to discuss or to come to an agreement in which topics or in which real, which are the actual distinctive features that Latin America has. We cannot discuss that now to contribute to the global. I think we will find that.
I agree with you totally. I
I
agree with you totally, but independently of the topics, that is, I know, and it's, of course, it's going to take a long time to have an agreement on the topics, but this is not going to change the objectives. We can define the objectives of the LATBrain initiative independently of the topics that will be addressed, because the topic doesn't matter. I mean, if your objective is to improve research, to the formation of human resources, the promotion of social of citizen awareness, and in parallel the promotion of support from public and private sector. These are objectives that doesn't matter if you are going to study development, Parkinson disease or whatever.
Also, an objective can be to identify the
Of
specific
course,
topics
of
for
course.
Latin American
Yes, I agree with you.
I think the way to put it both things together is that to take those objectives, the ones you mentioned, I think that the general objective that nobody will reject, and then we have a list as an example of such as, and then
On the
we
topics.
can take the list of, and
Yes, of course.
write the list and then have those and other examples to discuss at home with your community.
So one experience we had in Australia, we invited Christoph Koch to come to discuss with us. And he immediately asked us, why do you want to form an Australian Brain Initiative? Why? So I think it's maybe a good question to ask. Why do you want to form a Lab Brain Initiative?
I mean, I think this is the main question that we need to start with. Like, and I want to add that we also have other instruments like Falan, like many other things that do other things. And we don't want to substitute them with the Brain Initiative. That's not the way to do it. I think that we need to think what we want to do with the Brain Initiative. And as I remember our first meetings, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, it was more like finding the strength of the vision and finding the problems we need to work on and the strength both in human resources, capabilities, and the types of problems we need to. I mean that as a region we can provide to the whole brain community. I mean this has to be the development of a line of research that puts us in the way of doing neuroscience, the way it will be done the next few years. Like I've seen the talk this morning about the 100,000 electrodes, and I thought, well, come on, we have 2 and we're happy. Well, what would we do? So we need to find we need to make efforts to be able to do important research, relevant forefront of neuroscience, that this needs to define the things we need to do, where we need to go, and then after we have that, we will be able to discuss the instruments, the things that we need to do. We need to have this project, this money, this instruments.
Yes.
I just see the answer to your question is taking Rafael's talk and say that we are part of the system and we want to have an emergent, emergent ideas, an emergent concept, which will come out from interaction between us.
But why not an Argentinian brain initiative?
Yes.
A Uruguay brain initiative?
Okay.
A Brazilian brain initiative? Why a Lat brain initiative?
Well, we can have common reasons, but also we can potentiate each other.
Yeah. It's a synergy.
Synergy and also common.
Because, for example,
And also we
there
have
are
common culture.
and besides there are
We speak the same language and we have the same goal.
there are different strengths in every country. Maybe in some places there are more development in technologies. In other places there are more development in some topics or some others. There are already collaborations between groups in different countries and sometimes in between 2 or 3. So we already have a kind of embryo of that. But I think that why is because we need to grow. It's a kind of natural process.
I would like to say briefly.
Somebody's writing these down.
No, but it's being YouTube.
No, cancelarlo.
No, ¿por qué no?
Okay. So,
No, ¿querés que se escuche? Está en YouTube, nos quedamos ahí, ¿eh?
we are taking notes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are taking notes. And maybe it's my personal idea, but
Okay, it's quite difficult for me, but we are talking about LATBrain initiative, but we don't know what are the brain initiative in the world. Even though you came here to explain us.
How do you define a brain initiative?
That's one
What
point.
is different to a society that is a brain initiative?
What I can, and of course we are here to share ideas. For instance, what my notes are here are the goals that you showed, for instance, that are scientific goals, medical goals, powerful technology, and training interdisciplinary scientists. Okay, I could say that here, Latin America, powerful technology is not going to happen very easily, if it is going to happen. The easier aspect for us could be the training interdisciplinary scientists, of course. And the scientific medical goals, you surely know that Latin America doesn't have MD, PhD, or there are not a very easy way to do research in medical science. And these are the goals that you presented. The goals of the Japanese maybe are different, the US, etc. So, and the European, of course, is completely different. So for us, it was very enriching experience what you all told us, no? And why this meeting? Why? Okay, I believe that many people here have already had experience today or another moment with the Brain Initiative, or we read a lot and so on. So at personal level, I think that we need to worry about the future of science in Uruguay, the future of neuroscience, and the future in neuroscience in other countries. They already been worried about it 25 years ago, and they're doing a lot. Okay, so we are really late in this, and I'm not thinking about my research, of course. You already told them. So I think that is a good moment to sit and talk first here in Montevideo. So this is, I mean, at personal level, that is what I believe. This is very important for me, because many people, many neuroscientists came here in these days. We are trying to share ideas, think, Uruguay. And we thank the other colleagues coming from the region for their interest. But we haven't thought still much about this. We have the Society of Neuroscience, we have the Network of Neuroscience, we have cooperation, we have Falan, relatively young, more or less. And I think that is the beginning of, for me, it's try thinking about the future of neuroscience. And the regional is, I mean, maybe I can say that it's European. In Latin America, okay, the regional cooperation is really strong. It's really strong. In our case, to go to Buenos Aires is a regional cooperation. It's 1 hour, and Brazil and other countries less. But so it's a normal. But we have to grow at local level and in parallel at regional level. I think I don't know to describe the point.
Can I speak then? I want to say two things. The first thing is that after this, I would like to go to Chile and start already working with them. So to coordinate with the Minister of Science, Perellana, is neuroscientist, the different universities. So I would like to take something to tell them. A first version, general, to tell them. And the other thing, in a different way, is that we have been talking about in these days development of the brain, clinical conditions, so environmental determinants that can be important to brain development. So maybe something that is different, and maybe we can discuss about this, is that our brain is in relation with the environment. We saw that from the evolution and development. So, and many of the brain alterations are related with social cognition. So maybe we can differentiate from the other initiatives in a social, studying the social brain, that is the interface between development, structure, cognition, and how the brain works in relation with the environment. And that is different in our regions because we have different environmental conditions. So that's an idea. But if we can take something to go home with something that I can explain them, that could be great.
So I mentioned before about a press release. I don't know if you have a communications person here.
Not here, not
We
here,
can
from the institute, but we can ask for help.
I think Linda is talking about producing a document to how do you say,
Well,
publish
I
in
guess,
your site. in
well,
our-
there's that too. There's that too. But I guess just from your presence here,
Yeah, we can
there's a
do that.
commitment to form a LATBrain initiative, right?
Yes.
So here you already have perhaps a declaration of intent potentially to form a LATBrain initiative. So a document and a declaration of intent
we can do
to
that.
form a LATBrain initiative is one thing you can do.
I think I agree with you totally. Thank you very much. This is what I propose. If we work fast and concentrate, in 1 hour we can have the guidelines of this document.
very general.
This is just
Very general
not
terms.
what you're going
Yeah.
to do as a brain initiative. Just
No,
that
no,
you
the
want to
intention.
work together.
Yeah. And
form a brain
That's why I call the summary of the meeting.
yeah. But we have we have to agree in which are, for example, the main objectives of the.
I don't agree about the objective because this objective that he mentioned.
Francesco, it's not the Bible. I mean, it's just a document with some ideas of this group of people that has been working all day long to show a consensus of ideas about some things that are already published in a program. I mean, it's not a declaration forever,
Let's try
love forever.
Let's try it. Let's
It's an articulation of why you want to form a LATBrain.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
helps
That's
you
just that.
to frame
Yes.
the declaration to form a LATBrain.
Yes.
And then you can, no, I don't know if in that document, but then you can have a list of subjects that everybody can take home and discuss.
Vamos a hacerlo.
But that is just a list of subjects to say can individual or. But I agree, I think we should have a declaration of intent.
A press release.
And that declaration is
It's okay. Understood.
I think we should put these 5 objectives, which is a general objective, like research, education, nobody will, advocacy, I mean, we will do that in the declaration of intent and that's it. But then we have to also be, in a way, we have to organize ourselves how to continue with it. So we don't stop with that declaration.
I was criticizing this objective because these are the classical objectives that we always present everywhere. The objective of the brain initiative are slightly different. Do you understand? then my
They might
so
improve.
or the objective are quite general or
If you put in the declaration, we are
interdisciplinary.
set to organize a training which they may include following objectives. May include.
Okay.
You don't commit yourself that they will be all.
No, that's fine.
there.
And we can go back also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there are different.
Juan?
I think we had the question of why do we want a brain initiative? So I'm gonna try to answer that.
Yeah, I answered already.
Already. I think that we're looking for a type of organization able to push an agenda for the development of neuroscience at the frontier of knowledge, building on the potential of the region, which means the potential is many things. Potential of the problem, potential of the challenges, potential of the resources and the strength. I mean, when Radi said that we should use, for instance, the care system, maybe that's a kind of a potential. I mean, we need to, for doing that, we need to create groups, and maybe we have to fund groups to create these objectives, like, okay, what are the potentialities and the strengths we have? And what are the problems that at the same time are relevant for our societies and require neuroscience that maybe we are the only ones who can produce? Maybe there are some problems that in the US they don't care about, so we study them here. Maybe there are some problems that are very difficult to study in other places, like
For instance, low income.
It's hard to realize all that
malnutrition
at this time now, but I think that maybe we should create this kind of.
Maybe we can give this kind of questions for the different societies
Yeah.
to do it as a common.
Yeah,
What are the communities, not after the question, but
No, but create a schedule to solve this, like, okay, what do I want to do? And
get home with these questions and discuss.
Technological issues very important. I mean,
Yes.
maybe we call it
¿Puedo usar un compu para escribir?
¿Qué?
¿Puedo usar una compu para escribir cosas?
Sí, of
¿Esta?
course. Sí.
¿O esta? No, esta.
Es la que quieras.
Esta es la
Tenés
tuya.
dos.
way I see to solve this is that if we team up and we start develop or acquire whatever in some places, state of the art. Because we can see that if you want to work on the frontier of knowledge, we have to have better knowledge.
Can I add something to this? Because if we think, as somebody first before, that one goal would be to think about education in neuroscience for the next 50 years, for example, we need to prepare people to be able to work in the future. We don't know how the technology could be, but just to begin to prepare them to do that.
Actually,
we need that.
human resources we produce in our region, when we go abroad, they do very well. And they can do things that they cannot do here, not because of their brain, because of the technology that they use on
Well, then we can say that as one of the main goals would be to prepare human resources to education to do that. The other, what I wrote down, I'd like to say that now, because it's in agreement with some people said, is maybe the topics could be related with developmental problems, with low income population and problems of nutrition, and also in aging, even to have the same problems, neurodegenerative problems related with low income, and development of maybe we can not develop high technology, but biotechnology, like some tools as now, I could say nanobodies developed in Canada, which we have in the region possibility to do that easily, and we do that And for diagnosis, for study, for research, and also as was suggested to localize it to ethnic groups in our region. This is the other thing, like in Cuba and in Colombia, the familiar Alzheimer's group, and well, in Cuba, the cerebral assessment, and we trying to identify some ethnic problems also. These are.
I agree with that. I agree with that maybe this is the job of the group that will decide which things. I mean, to do more research and see what things you can do.
No, I propose to be discussed. Just I wrote down everything.
I think that I think that's something important. Just the identification of those current local problems or ongoing government programs that could benefit from neuroscience is a project that we have to think with other people that are not scientists that needs funding, and that is not trivial. So it's not just us doing it in our weekend times. So I mean, I think that everything that you mentioned needs a lot of study behind it to really identify in each country and for the network. And so that would be like a strategy that we have to think will take, I don't know, maybe a year, that we need funding from local agencies, because that would be the heart of the problem, that then we have to present to the local government and politicians and whatever.
But there are some things that are already identified. That was the reason I mentioned that, because it was already showed in this meeting. It's not like an abstract of what we listen to.
Okay, maybe it would be good to see what we have produced in this. Okay, do you have anything else? Okay. You have something to put here? Okay, let me highlight it. And then
Okay, this also.
I think I connected all. Too much work.
No, but I already read that.
Okay.
Too many. Don't want the first.
Okay.
Okay,
So this is perfect. This is perfect. We have three groups of papers. Three groups. One is the answer to the why question of Linda. The other is the answer to the which would be our main objectives. And these others are related to the strategy. So I'm going to read all of them, and unless someone else wants to help me. And so, this is why. Why, for example, why? To be part of a global neuroscience community. Today, join the BRAIN initiative. It's okay? This is the why, Linda. I can give you a picture of. There is why. Why this initiative? Why LATBrain? Global Brain? I don't understand. Okay, LATBrain. Okay, LATBrain and Global Brain. So why? The other answer is why immersion properties give to network. This is very nice system neuroscience approach. So if we are a network, it could be possible to construct a brain that is a kind of immersion property of our network. So this idea for me is very appealing. So, and the other is why in Latin America to become independent? Well, to become independent, to strengthen science in our community, to sensitize our people. So, and in fact, I mean, it's a topic of freedom. If we have independent creation of knowledge, we are free, much more free than using the technology produced everywhere, and instead of creating knowledge.
So I agree totally. And also, it is not written here, but we have already think about that before. And if we grow in science, it's growing the culture of the countries, of each country. So it usually science is not seen as part of the culture, but we have to claim about that, to claim that supporting science is supporting the development of the culture and supporting the development of the people in general, because this is kind of extending to the rest. So this is the why, the answer to the why. And the answer to the goals or objectives, we have here main goals: education in neuroscience for next 50 years. And there are a list of topics that I'm not going to read because this is not the, we already agree that this is not the point. The other is outreach, education, ethics, and advocacy. As develop or acquire state-of-the-art technology within the region. International Latin American networking effort, how to do it. Okay, this is the dissertation. Catalizar investigación cooperativa, cooperative research and interdisciplinary and cooperative research. Here, education, evaluation, ethics, funding, state and private. And then regional goals, similar problems, potentiation in science. And okay, and that's all. So I think we can take this and say we agree with the general objectives that which are to develop science in the neuroscience in the region and to promote human resources formation, education, outreach, advocacy, and develop, of course, related to develop the neuroscience in the region, develop in the state of the art in technology within the region also. It could be part of that. And I think I'm not missing anything. And the ethics.
And the ethics. Yeah.
And the ethics. So we come back to these main 5 objectives. And we, in fact, in some way, we all agree. Is it okay? Okay. And then how? There are a lot of things here. And let's say team up to get funds from our governments for neuroscience, regional lobbying, share resources and technologies, reveal many things, or just how do you say, and analyze the state in many aspects. Groups that are doing research in brain research in Latin America. The search for areas of brain research. Available technologies for studying the brain. Brain centers or research institutions involved. Formation of specialized human resource in the topic of neuroscience. And agreements between countries of Latin American countries. And formation of networks. Formation of human resource, technologies for the study of the brain. And here also it says diagnostic studies. Maybe
no, I guess this is the continuation.
The continuation of this. Diagnostic of the state of the art in Latin America in 3 poles: basic, clinic, and neurotechnology, including bioinspiration. For diagnostic studies, I don't understand. Ethnic groups like Colombian and Cuban cerebral ataxia. So there are some topics that are related to the country. So these are some proposals of strategies or things that we have to do to start contributing to have a proposal for the LATBrain. So in some way, we can write a statement in which we kind of agreement statement of people here present about the will to start working on the organization of the LATBrain initiative, taking into account that the main objectives are what? To promote the development or the strengthening of brain research in Latin America, to promote formation of human resources, to promote the development of much modern technologies, new technologies, and also to stress in the outreach and advocacy and ethics. So these are the pillars that could be addressed in the, according to us, in the LATBrain initiative. Yes, of course.
We learned from what Linda was telling us and what Professor Yus was telling us of. For example, it's very clear for me the thing about in Australia they have the coffee. No? Maybe one of our aims would be identified in between us in our country, something that is really important, because I know that everything is important, but we need to convince politicians and normal people and street people. We are absolutely.
I have an example. We heard Romulo Fuentes before. He was working in a brain stem simulator to treat Parkinson's disease. He's already been assigned to treat patients with Parkinson's. So he has a sample. And you're right, you need to ask, you need to make the search to generate some statement to convince.
That's what you do for our community.
Yes, that is I think that in every, because we have societies in our country, so I think we should try to organize in each of the annual meetings the discussion about things and about the aim of this initiative, and take this document to discuss with our colleagues in our country.
Yeah.
That would be the next step.
That was what I was that I wanted to say, because we need to know how our societies would like to be involved or would desire to be involved, and also the RAND, the network. I guess we have to write down something in this. Like this is a document also to send to the societies and
Elena Bell and Patricia.
Some generality. And then we can proceed to the next step that requires some discussion in each of the societies.
I think we have. I propose that we make this declaration in intent, and we schedule ourselves that to work from here to March. I already applied for a global grant for AGRO for advocacy. So in March, if we're lucky, we may have support for a second meeting, not in 2020, in Finland 2020, before. So to avoid washing out.
You think that the declaration could be done today and then we approve it?
Yes, and that will work from now till March, that they bring our
Tomorrow morning for the declaration.
Yes, we can work today
We are going
to
work
have it
now,
ready for tomorrow.
but it's no point that we are working all together for that declaration.
No, yes, of course, we
I know
can.
Francisco writes very well.
Something I would like to say.
Francisco, you are very good.
There are some things there that implies, I guess, a sort of survey.
Yes, of course.
Then
this is the homework.
When you read the to know in our countries the group and the technology. Well, maybe we can declare there that we propose to make surveys.
Yes. We can define. Once we have this, we can define the strategy. And I think the strategy is to do the work. For example, in which are the groups, which could be the main research lines. All these topics can be a homework from now till March.
I have another homework.
Yeah.
If I understood correctly, one requirement is to have a national endorsement, the government endorsement. So another homework, each country to seek for the way of having that endorsement.
I like
How will that work? And if we are going to do it by the same way or not, for example, through the Academy of Science and the National Academy of Science in each country, or through the Ministry of Science or equivalent in each country. And that is also homework for next year.
This is a strategy.
So you can have a list of action items for each country to take back to. Another point that was raised twice today, once by your academy president and the other time by the
Cecilia,
the
the prorector.
Both raised that the importance of looking at the national priorities. So having an understanding of what your national priorities currently are for health, education. Defense is something, I don't know if you want to go there or no. We actually do engage with defense in Australia, but regarding the health issues of defense. Health issues of defense personnel. But anyway.
Security would be here, not defense, security, maybe.
In Brazil, I don't know in your country, we have a consultant was telling about alcohol. But we have a lot of problems with children that the fathers just let live in the streets, you know. So develop this kind of thing. Yes, and this is something that is going to be a problem, not now. And we do not understand very well what's going to happen during development, what is going to happen with them. It must be a priority. It isn't in my country, it isn't, but that's something that can sensibilize people. I don't know.
Wonderful. So both Zoltan and I would absolutely employ a major project on brain development.
I was studying math.
Well, what has in chloroquine, and chloroquine is could be neuroprotective.
Yeah. You have some.
I'm buying.
Yeah, mate is antioxidant properties.
But maybe this is already a national priority for Brazil.
I'm saying that
Recognize-
malnutrition in general.
Malnutrition.
Alcohol
And toxicology in Chile, maybe,
Now,
or some
Yeah.
poverty.
zinc or copper.
Copper,
Nutrition,
arsenic.
alcohol, and things,
Yes. Here is
Minor.
I don't know. There is
Pesticides.
Pesticides.
In every Latin American country, there is a population with very low income.
And small.
Then you have to study. And there are people studying that. There are people studying that with epigenetics of
Bueno, si quieres le doy vuelta. Okay, so now maybe we have more or less clear that we want to have this document, and then do we want to keep working a little bit in trying to see the strategy, for example, something about the strategy? Like, for example, you said each of the societies has homework to do, trying to have support from the government. For example, we could think in kind of making a census, how do you say? A survey about the research groups.
That's too much work.
But just to list it,
Not now. It's for 6 months work.
Just to make a list.
I don't think that much. I think that we can have something like this project.
No. I'm not saying to say do it today.
No, but what I'm saying is that we don't need to rush to have something for March. I don't know.
March.
No, because you are saying that March.
Well, if you don't have a deadline, many times you don't do anything. Just, I mean, it's not necessary.
What was the deadline? Sorry.
It's not necessary, but I like to have deadline.
What is the deadline?
Usually I suffer with the deadline, but if I don't have a deadline, I don't reach with an output.
What is the deadline?
I propose
Sí,
to use as a deadline, just for inner control of work, March of 2020, because it's the Brain Awareness Week. It's a good moment to meet each other again, because we have already applied for funds for that. So, just
We already applied for.
yes, for the global advocacy.
No era el
of,
BAO, otro, los del IPO.
no, a BAU no sé quién aplicó. Yo apliqué a la Global Outreach. Me equivoqué si dije Brain Awareness. En la semana.
Lo que aplicamos la otra vez.
Sí, but it's going to be in the same period of time, in March. Pero no, ¿cómo que no está aplicada? Sí, está
Collect
aplicada.
that information, and then if we are ready, on March, we try to share it.
The Argentinian Society meets in October.
Yes.
And I don't know, the Chilean also, no?
November, maybe.
Well, it can be earlier. If you want earlier, I don't mind.
No, at the beginning of October, we have a...
Yeah.
For what?
This
This year.
Están prefiriendo antes, que no sea en marzo. Bien.
Para este state of the art. Para esto.
It's better, yes.
And just to mention it, for example, I don't know if it is going to work, but here we send questionnaires by email asking many things. We meet, but also send questionnaire, receive the answers, then we meet again, we also already
We
the answers.
are, at least in the society, 135 people.
No.
It's a hard work.
Just,
But just the principle, we send to the principal.
If I may say something about this state of the art on neuroscience, it depends how deep you want to go. So we can already have information from Falan or Ibrolark, certain kind of information.
Okay.
So another level of information is, for instance, what we did for neuroframes in Buenos Aires. We divided the area in 6 different technological area or scientific area and representative, and it took 2 days a meeting of 2 days to do that. So it depends. Brazil is huge, Argentina is quite big, and so on. For us, it's very easy. So it depends what is the objective of this. So we should ask, for instance, in the case of Argentina, I can think about the Argentine Society for Neuroscience that is part of the Argentine brain science, but they're not all. The network is possibly
I think you have already done that. In fact, it is published in the webpage of the Argentinian Society, the network for neuroscience. It's already published, the groups that are in Argentina. So you have already done part of this work. Yeah, and also as we saw today a presentation, but maybe it's not full, it's not fully comprehensive, but Siddhartha showed us a lot of centers in Brazil. You can complement what Siddhartha showed. Maybe he forgot. I mean, not going to think about which the reason I don't know to go in this, but this is already made a searching, and it can be just updated with the. So there is work. I don't know in Chile if you have already done a kind of survey of all the groups.
Not yet, but we will do it.
Okay, so in Uruguay we are working on that. So Argentina has already published in the web. Okay, I saw it in the web.
From 2017, the results, but are just.
Okay, so but I mean, if
and it took quite a long time.
Yeah.
So we have it, but I try to discuss with the person who organized that, and I try to propose that for every country in Latin America, and it was not so easy.
The good thing that I see, I always try to see good things, but the good thing that I see is that we are not starting from zero. We have already done a lot of things already in each of the countries. So it's just to see which things we have already done, which things has to be done, and just make kind of goals to, like we say, homework for the next meeting. If I propose March because thinking in 6 months to have enough time, but if you do it earlier, I don't mind. October, November would be great.
Elaine mentioned when she presented that at one point with myself and what was the name of the previous Chilean president of the Chilean Society?
Guadalupe.
Juan and myself, we committed to organize this map of the society. So, okay, I can get in touch again with
him. And okay.
Are you gonna work for Chile?
Well, for the other
okay.
For Palam, it was a commitment to do it for Palam.
I would like to contact him.
This is synergy.
We concentrate our effort in our conference.
Our institute was also involved.
IBCN. Okay. So what else do we think we have to do for next meeting? No matter if it is October, November, or March.
Just a question. And with this document, would we invite the other countries that were not?
Yes, of course. This is Palan homework and Ibrolar homework. I mean, it would be great if this output, the output of today, is shared with the other societies for neuroscience of Palan and also shared through Ibrolar. I mean, invite all the neuroscientists, because maybe there are groups that neither of us or the people that may be involved knows about that what they're doing or what if they exist at all. So maybe it would be great if we have this document to share it and share it with the other societies, those that couldn't come or couldn't send a PowerPoint or a message, because I sent emails to most of the societies, I think, that have an email.
And another question.
So it would be great if we could share with them this. Sorry.
That's the problem. What they don't answer.
They don't answer, so this is a pity. Okay. Well, this is another thing that, in fact, someone put this in the discussion, that there are some countries in South America that we have groups, we have even society, we have activity, and other countries that they don't have anything. So I think one of the goals of the LATBrain that we didn't mention is to promote the development of the neuroscience in those countries that there aren't yet development.
We have
So
to
what
think
is
about
that,
not
how is that
overlapping,
different to
overlapping.
what Falan does?
Yeah, this is overlapping.
Oh yes, you're
This is
right.
Falan and Lar.
Okay, this is Falan and Lar. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. It's Ibro and Falan. That's okay.
No, we can contribute.
We have to think how to contribute to the research of brains,
Yeah.
the work. how to
I see.
and to go to an excellent,
Yeah.
to reach excellence.
More like a 10-year plan for neuroscience.
Perfect.
Like a 10-year plan is kind of goal in the end, right?
And what?
The goal, the end goal.
The end goal.
Is to have a 10-year plan. And this is a 5-year plan.
I would also say, Francesco, I would like to tell you also this. Because some people today say some things like people from Cuba say something about topics. Then maybe we can, at the end, make a
list of
paragraph
topics
with an abstract saying that those topics were
mentioned
or were related to regional problems or national problems in, I don't know how to.
Yes, could be. It could be. Yeah, we can.
Or the problems of, no, as you said, topics. But just to say like this, the problems of low-income population and brain development and the problems in childhood with this, and
and also elderly.
I guess we have to mention that because it was.
We can mention
the
Well, this is another thing. Maybe a group of us should make a summary of the meeting. That is another thing. It's not the declaration. A summary
And
of the
it could be
meeting.
published on IBRO website or.
Yeah, maybe.
We didn't follow your